Bronwyn took a bite and then covered her camera.
Trust me, you don't want to.
Okay, we are live. Okay. I'm gonna get my chat box up on my phone. There we go. Okay. So last time, we had a bit of a reacquainting ourselves with the world. Ren met with Orin in the library, found out he was doing rather well. Ren had a bit of a friend powwow with Kenda, who was looking for something, and they weren't really sure what they were looking for, but they figured it was on their desk. Henry and Call. Henry's aura was discussed with the good smells that everyone smells of their own accord. Very love potion-y. And did Call didn't do anything else in the barracks, or am I?
Call didn't do anything last session.
Yeah. And then we went to report to the Hearts. Found only Chels at the residence. Had a discussion that went well. I guess everybody kind of left happy, at least. And Ash had something that they wanted to pitch as far as maybe a small retcon.
Henry, when we were out in the hills, Henry wanted to use sending to ask Chels before the Draconians, before we did the fight with the Knoll. Henry wanted to send Chels a sending and say, is it weird that the Knoll ate the cultist? And then after the Draconians, Henry's like, whoa, is it weird that they teamed up with the Draconians? And then kind of ask her opinion on that. But then we didn't. We sent one to Barnabas. It didn't really make sense. We were just going to ask her when we came back. But I was not with it last time, and we didn't ask. So I was going to ask y'all. Henry probably would have remembered, even though I didn't. So either we could retcon that and roleplay that now, Henry asking that now, or Henry can just ask tomorrow at breakfast.
I'm fine with whatever y'all want to do. Kind of like did Ren and Call want to be there for that conversation? If they did, then we'll retcon it and say it happened before y'all left during the previous session.
We just left their house, so.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not very smart. I was processing, and at first I thought you meant like we retcon all the way back to the hills.
No.
Okay.
Just like rewind 10 minutes because we just left their house. Rewind 10 minutes before we leave. Henry asked these questions.
I'd be fine with that. Like we
I'm
had
fine
been
with
talking
that.
about it. Yeah, we had been talking about it.
Okay. All right, so we'll hop back a few seconds. We'll just add this conversation in and then resume as if, how would you bring that up? Say what you say.
Sometime after we give the full report, I think Henry would ask, like, as we said, the Knoll just ate the cultist and was kind of reckless abandon, and then they were also teaming up with the Draconians. Is that unprecedented that they would team up with other people? Is there a reason that they would have turned on the cultist? What do you think about that?
She thinks for a minute, and then Noel are, I mean, volatile, angry. It wouldn't. I would be highly surprised if it was the first time they ever attacked a human, even one in their ranks. To be honest, I wouldn't be surprised to know that they attack each other regularly, especially if there was some kind of disagreement, which, according to your reports, you said you heard lots of yelling beforehand. I assume something was going wrong there. As for Draconians, I don't know anything about them, so I don't. I have no knowledge of whether they've ever worked alongside Null before, or how likely that would be, or why they would turn on each other.
Okay. All right, that was much less anticlimactic than I thought it would be. I'm trying to think of any follow-up questions. So, okay, because I was wondering, Henry's saying this, I was wondering if they knew the Draconians were coming to kill them, and they might as well get a good last meal in right before, something like that. But if it's pretty common that there's inner fighting, then never.
I mean, they're somewhat feral creatures. I've never heard of them wanting to, I've never heard of them doing a last hurrah expecting to die. They're, again, feral, volatile creatures and charge into danger and conflict often. So death isn't exactly like they aren't afraid of it as much as your average person would be. They don't, as far as I know, they don't have any special pre-fight rituals or anything.
Can I make an insight check about when, for on Chels, when I mentioned attacking a human, and then she said they attack humans, that's pretty regular. Can I make an insight check to see if there's any
You can make an insight check.
personal stuff there, like facial scars? 18.
She had. There's certainly some bitterness, and I mean, nothing specific happens with her scar, but I mean, she always talks of Noel with disdain. There's certainly, like, you don't feel that there's any dishonesty happening.
Okay, I don't perceive
Like, you don't think that she's making shit up about Noel to smear their name. Like, that, you don't get that impression.
Okay. Okay. All right. So then we leave and go have lunch.
Let's do the thing.
And Henry is
Alright.
gonna ask to braid their hair, I guess, while we're waiting.
Whose hair?
I mean, Paul and Ren. Both of them.
Oh.
Just for fun.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
And then I
All
guess we
right.
could.
The
Right,
hair
and
is
then we
braided.
gotta-
The lunch is had.
All right, we go to Count Anders' office.
Okay. Okay. So as you approach, y'all aren't like allowed in. Like you don't have free access to the main hall. Like there's guards at the entrance and such.
Good to know.
So as you approach the guards, what do you do?
Hello. Good afternoon. How are you two this afternoon?
One of them is kind of leaning against the wall. They both are holding halberds. One of them is leaning against the wall and doesn't react kind of at all. The other does not like springs to attention, but like stands up a little straighter. Looks you up and down a little bit and kind of squints at you for a second, and then says, "Fine."
All right. Well, is it all right if we go in to talk to Count Ander? We have a report to make to him.
Report. He says, he hits the other one who kind of startles a little bit, and says, they have a report for Ander. Go get the Herald. The guy runs inside, or not, doesn't really run. He walks rather casually, actually.
Mosey's inside.
Yeah, he goes inside. Few moments pass, and then the Herald comes out, sees the three of you, and recognizes you because y'all have seen him a couple times. And he kind of nods a little bit and says, "This is about the mountain, the mission into the foothills?"
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
He nods and he says, "It'll be a moment. I believe Count Ander wants a few people present for this." And then he goes back in. After a couple minutes, a couple runners come out. Look at how many. I'm not in the right spot on my notes. 4 or 5 different runners come out and scatter off in different directions. After a very short while, Zerka approaches from barracksward, and you actually see don't have him list. You see Barnabas, and then 2 Dragonborn. One of them is Great Servant Rawl. Another is a female Dragonborn who Ren would recognize, not really know. It's her name is Lark. And then also Lord Commander Rhine and Lord Commander Umber. They don't like all come at once, but they kind of trickle in a little bit. And as Zerka comes up, she gestures for y'all to go with her inside.
We follow.
Yeah.
All right, so y'all
We do not touch the handle, but we do go inside.
Yes, the doors to the Great Hall are trapped, definitely.
No, it's just unsanitary.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you know how many men don't wash their hands?
Yeah.
In this day and age?
Doorknobs in this economy?
Anyway, instead of going to Anders' office, you'll actually go to the Great Hall. There's no like audience waiting or anything, but those that I mentioned are either there as you arrive or come in slightly behind you. Aside from those, also Carta is already there, and Ander himself. And Erida is sitting in her throne seat next to Ander as well.
Perception check on if Erida is looking like pregnant or anything.
Sure.
Well, we have heard it only in rumor. We have yet to hear it confirmed. 16.
You cannot tell.
Damn.
Perception check on Erida's hair. Just for fun.
You can see Erida's hair. There's nothing. Go
What
ahead,
does it
make
look
your
like?
perception. Make your perception check.
That's a hot 6.
That's some hair. For the effects of Henry, I will say it is up in her. It's not the same little like headpiece that she wore the first time you saw her, but it is another one. And with that perception check, Henry is not able to tell how it works, but it is done up fancily. Not quite Queen Amidala, but like reminiscent. So Ander is kind of hushedly talking with her, actually, as everyone's coming in.
I don't want to be left out. Can I do a perception check on Great Servant Rawl?
Absolutely.
Jenny just wants to be included.
Also, Rawl is creeping me out lately. Mod 20.
Mod 20. He is muttering to himself. You, with a mod 20, you do make out a couple words, but they all sound prayer-y. Like, not quite, like, mod 20. He doesn't use any names of deities that you know of. But he doesn't use any names at all, actually. He uses, like, titles, but not like specific to an individual titles. Like he says "Great One" a couple times, and one time he says "Your Mightiness," but he you get the feel that he feels weird about saying that. But he's constantly mumbling and talking. After just a little bit, he starts describing who is in the room. But it's a little, honestly, it reminds you of The Ring a little bit, being a little scatterbrained and like not staying on one task for very long. But he often circles back to things that he started talking about before. But yeah, that's what you get from Great Servant Rawl.
Need 2 seconds. I'm so sorry.
Can I make an insight check on Ander and Erida? Is he being nice to her?
Make your insight check.
It's a 23.
It's 23.
Jenny, I just did an insight check to see if Ander is being nice to Erida because they're talking. I got a 23.
Ander is telling a story or anecdote that he thinks is very, very interesting. And she is currently entirely enthralled by him.
Oh, okay.
Entirely enthralled by the story. Yeah.
That's cute.
So yeah. As everyone finally does kind of get in and settle in, the Lords Commander are sitting in their little, not little, but they're like seats that are just below Ander on the dais, and everyone else is kind of just standing near it. Also, Garth Ryan V is there as well, as he always is, standing as he always is, helmet behind him a couple feet, great sword, both hands, Thor's. Yeah, so as everyone's actually kind of milling around a little bit, y'all know who's there. Any other roles y'all want to make? Any other things y'all want to do?
Call wants to take a peek at Zerga. Just see how she's feeling about the room.
Okay. See how she's feeling about the room? Insight check.
I believe that is a... Yep, 14.
Okay. A couple things you notice about her. She is standing kind of on the opposite of the crowd to Lord Commander Ryan. She isn't like in conversation with anyone, and is kind of just watching. You've been around her long enough to know what her looks mean, but at the moment she is doing a good job to mask those whatever emotions she may be feeling, whatever insights could be gleaned from her face. She is doing a good job of hiding them. Not really watching anyone in particular. And also, with a 14, it isn't like chomping at the bit to get things started, which is something she's done in the past. Like Zerka's in a hurry often, but doesn't seem to be pushing for things to get going. Anyone else?
Last time we were here, Barnabas arrived late and made a show of like being late.
Mm-hmm.
And Ander didn't seem happy about it. Is there any of that animosity going on this time?
All of the members from the university arrived at roughly the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Lark was a little bit behind, but like not much, like 20 to 30 feet behind them, which, to be completely honest, you have literally the head of the university and then one of the heads of the different schools. I wouldn't want to walk next to them either.
Kenda's not there.
Kenda is not there, but Lark is Kenda's assistant.
Right, okay. Why would Kenda want to be there? That's fair. But is there any of that animosity that was there? Like, yeah, Barnabas wasn't late, but is he...
Give me an insight check.
Ander and him, are they angry? 13?
not that you pick up on.
Cool.
After a little while, Lord Umber kind of looks around the room and starts. The man's wearing full plate, so any kind of movements he does are not quiet, but he does start loudly kind of tapping his foot. And briefly, Ander kind of looks for the sound, notices that it's Umber, and squints at him for a second. They're not facing each other. Ander is sitting behind Umber. Ander kind of looks at him for a second, and then looks up a bit. Not in a like noticing everyone's here, but kind of in a just like taking stock of who all is there, and then finally gives Erida a touch on the shoulder, and then sits up straight and looks at the three of you and says, I hope that I have heard errored reports.
May I ask what reports you have already heard?
His demeanor has changed entirely from when he was talking to Erida. He is sitting like as straight as he possibly can, and kind of doing, or not as straight as he can, but like leaning forward, grabbing the arms of his chair as you have seen him do mostly when he's yelling things. But he's leaning forward and he says, "Are there Draconians in my land?"
Are we all just nodding?
Just all nodding. All.
No. Call will actually say, yes, sir. There are.
He looks over at Barnabas, who is unreadable at the moment, and then looks back at you again and says, "Well, I wanted to hear it from a first-hand source." And then his jaw kind of just works for a minute, and then he looks at Lord Commander Ryan and says, "We will be preparing an expedition. I trust you to respond to this with an adequate force." Lord Commander Ryan stands and bows deeply and says, "Yes, sir." And then then Ander says, these three have been somewhat successful, even if they do often bring bad news along with the good. I think that we shall continue with their example, and I would like to pair members of the corps together, or group rather. So, when you have made your determination on number, I will commit appropriate numbers of the Corps of Light and the Corps of Mages to this effort as well. And you see the kind of redness about him kind of fades pretty quickly, which that's normal. He changes moods easily. And he then turns to Zerka and says, "Now, I keep getting pestered by Captain Ryan that for clarification's sake, this is captain of the city guard, right?
Not her boyfriend.
People don't know that. And that Ryan is not captain in any right. That is Lord Commander Ryan.
Right, that's what I'm
Yeah,
saying. It's
yeah.
not Lord Commander Ryan is her boyfriend. Captain Ryan is not.
But he says, the bandits that tried to interrupt, I suppose, tried rather effectively to interrupt the execution of the being who broke into our library need to be found. Captain Ryan and his city watch have not done well. But, as far as I am aware, you deal with matters of espionage. So, I will be giving this task to you. And if my reports, if I remember correctly, other members of present company, he gives a pointed look at the three of you, were also involved and perhaps have some insight to help you with. I know that one of them is your own, but the other two will be assigned to you as well for this task. Zerka just bows and then stands straight and says, "It will be done, my lord." Ander then looks at the three of you, says, "Is there anything extra, anything more that you would like to report with your previous mission?"
So since we didn't really we hadn't really said fuck all anything about the mission at this point, Call is going to mention Call at this point is just kind of assuming that they're the de facto speech giver out of the group. So they're going to walk up and step forward and mention the very high level report of it, which is that they followed the Knoll, or they went out to spot the Knoll eating the cultist, Draconians attacked, found a second Draconian camp, and at that point saw no other sign of anything else, and made sure that the village at the foot of the mountain was okay, through the sending, and then turned around and came home. And so that is specifically what Call is going to mention.
When you mention the Knoll eating the cultist, he makes a disgusted face and mutters something along the line of monsters, but when you finish, he kind of just nods and says, "Thank you for looking out for the village." And then he is going to stand and kind of wave a hand as a form of dismissal. And Lord Ryan, not this is bodyguard Ryan. I big family, holds lots of prestigious positions in the city. He steps in front. Ander whispers something in his ear, and everybody's kind of getting up and getting ready to leave. And Call has a passive perception of 25. Lord Ryan says something to Barnabas and he stays behind as everyone else is leaving.
Okay.
Wait, was Shells in the room?
Nope.
Like, I didn't hear you say her, but I figured she would be there. Okay.
To see if he can at least just like make eye contact with Barnabas before they all leave. Just kind of like a talk later kind of thing. But figure.
He gives you a kind of knowing nod, but doesn't like. There doesn't seem to be anything behind his. Like, he doesn't seem to be trying to send any kind of message to you, and you also know that he could just send a message to you. All right. So yeah. Y'all head out. After y'all get out of the Great Hall, Zerka kind of looks at the three of you, but more pointedly Henry and Ren, and says, well, I guess for the time being you are out from under Lady Heart's control and into mine. I need to make a roll, but I don't know what to use. How do I not have Zerka dice? What's wrong with me?
Oh, do
You
you
don't
need
have
Zerka
Zerka
dice?
dice?
Do you need Zerka dice, Ben?
I do
Yeah.
kind of need Zerka dice.
It's just because we haven't found any good enough for Zerka. Like, to be
I
honest.
have not found anything that has even sort of felt Zerka. Okay.
His birthday is
She is absolutely sizing up the two of you. Not the first time y'all have met, but she's giving y'all more of a quality look. Like full body, up and down, head to toe. What do these two guys look like? And then she just says, I will get whatever Captain Ryan has, and I will pass information on to you as I get it. I will be assigning a couple more of the dozen to this task as well. But I guess we have to pull something together. I would like to have this tied up with a pretty bow before Andrew tries to send out who knows how many into the hills. And then she just kind of nods to herself and walks past y'all.
Okay.
I think Henry smiles real big and says to Call, we're gonna get to hang out with some of your friends.
Call's actually gonna laugh at that. And Call's going to say, you know you've met them already.
I know, but this is different. I'm excited.
I'm glad you are excited to work with them. I'm very interested to see who she thinks to pair out with us for this mission.
Yeah. I don't know how I'm going to be helpful. I'm going to try my best, but spying and tracking down and sleuthing is not my strong suit.
I think you'd be more helpful than you would assume. I mean, people trust you, and people want to talk to you. You're very good at, making people feel safe in a situation, and that can definitely come in handy.
Well, thank you. Well, I guess we don't really have anything else to do until Zerka summons us. I wonder how Oren's doing. We should go see him.
Have you guys seen it?
I haven't.
And Ren is gone.
And then the Lord spoke to Ren.
His mightiness spoke to Ren.
Oh yeah, Ren can talk silently to people, so that was not out of character. Okay, sorry. We were talking about Oren. Ren just tells them, I talked with Oren this morning. He seems to be living in the library. Do you guys want to go see him?
Yeah.
I'd love to go see Oren.
Yeah. It'll be really good to see him.
Does Paul say it in that way?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so I guess let's go.
Just for the sake of things, it's 1:30ish. Just
They meant our time, and I was like, how did it get so
it's
late?
1:30 a.m. That meeting at court took forever.
Session 2.
Hey, it was a
Tokyo
great
Drift.
time.
It was a great time.
It was a great time.
I was still taking notes by hand. I thought I was going to die. Also, I want to note, Ben and Asher are wonderful, and for the folks at home, they got me a bunch of tea for my birthday, an undisclosed day. And this one is called Ravens in the Library, and I've been really, really excited to try it, and that's what I'm drinking right now. So
Is it good? Do you like it?
it's very, very good.
Go ahead, continue.
It's just black tea with it tastes very soft. So yeah.
Nice.
Speaking of ravens in the library, where's Pierre?
Pierre is a cat, and she is in Ren's room.
Okay.
She did not attend the meeting today.
Okay. So y'all go to the library.
Yes.
All right. Y'all find Horan almost exactly where Ren left him, only now with about 8 or 9 more books on the table. And you recognize his pattern of there's about 3 or 4 books on his left. There are 2 open books in front of him, and then a large pile next to him. A large pile to his right. And especially Henry would know this from him staying in the same room. You know that the pile on the right is the ones he's already read. Y'all find him there, proverbially buried in these books, reading very intently, and he does not notice y'all approach.
Hey, Oren, how have you been for the last couple hours?
He looks up at you and blinks a few times, and it takes a second for his eyes to focus on you. And then he smiles real big, seeing the 3 of you, and he says, "Oh, I've been having honestly a great time. Hi."
Hi. Henry goes over and makes body language to give him a hug. I want to hug you.
He very awkwardly doesn't stand up and just kind of leans over to give the hug, and does his familiar little kind of bounce, looking around at the 3 of you, and says, I talked to Ren earlier, but did y'all have an okay time on your mission?
We're here. we made
survived.
it back. Happy to see familiar faces. Definitely.
I'd agree with that.
He just kind of grins at that.
Is everyone treating you well? Do you feel good? Are you safe and happy and
Yeah. I mean, no issues really. Galdanus is a ambitious man, but he seems to think that I'm worth a little something, and so I mean, we get along fine, and for the most part, I mean, I study under him when he you know decides to teach me something, and other than that, I only actually have 3 classes that I go to, and they're all ones that I chose myself, and mostly history.
well, if anybody gives you any trouble, if he changes his tune and becomes pushy, you know where to find us. We're still here for you.
Thank you. I'm very glad to hear that.
Makes kind of like pointed eye contact with Orin at that. Like, they had talked about this earlier, but Ren's basically like, seriously, like silently, like, seriously, if Galdanus gives you shit, please let me know. Verbally, he's gonna say, "Did you eat lunch today?"
Uh,
Mom Ren!
Ren is
Orin shrinks in his chair a little bit.
So that's a no.
Orin.
He's, if I could remember the names of my own characters. Father Uthgard doesn't allow food in the library.
You can't skip meals. Make time to go eat in the cafeteria. You know where it is. Ren is like stern mom. Like, you can't skip meals. So
He hangs his head a bit and very, very gently closes the 2 books that he had open and begins gathering them together. And just kind of a little bit like abashed looks that he keeps throwing over at Ren. But he is very obviously packing his books to get the books together to put them away so that he can leave.
Ren's not mad at him. Just. Okay.
It's really cute.
Was there something else we needed to?
Insight check on Call at how Call is perceiving this Mom Ren.
Okay.
Okay.
It's a 22.
Well, now I have to make a decision on that one. Let's see. Call is honestly not seriously noticing it. Like, Call is vaguely bemused, is not paying that much attention.
Okay.
Yeah, their focus is elsewhere, so.
Okay. I guess they do have a lot on their mind.
They got a lot on their mind.
All right. Well, I guess as we leave, unless we have anything else to do in the library, I think Henry kind of nudges Call and goes, "Hey, are you okay?
Huh?
Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine. Why do you ask?
You just seem to be thinking more than usual." You're always thinking, but I feel like you're especially thinking a lot. And so if you want to talk about anything, I'm always here.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Insight check on Call?
Call hates Ren.
Call hates Ren. There we go. Finally you say it. Yeah? Granted.
I'm granted by me, at least.
23.
Fucking Christ, guys.
If you ever, but just so you know, if you ever want to hide something, you can always
I
roll
can make a
deception,
deception roll, I know.
And if you
I
want to
know.
do it entirely in secret, but just abide by what you roll.
Mm-hmm. Well, but also, in fairness, Call does not realize that these people are doing inside checks on them, so they wouldn't be able to.
But I mean, if you aren't trying to show what you are thinking, then you are putting some effort into deception. If you are, I mean,
Okay.
it's totally up to you if Call is just standing there playing through the scenarios in their head on their face. But, if they're trying to not just broadcast everything they feel, then you can roll deception.
Okay. Well, Call is not trying to broadcast, but is not doing an excellent job at it. So the answer on that is that Call looks like they are very intently taking in the library, and it seems to be an equal weight on the contents of the library and the people in the library. So they look a little torn between. They've got warring emotions on their face, and I guess the roll is high enough that you can't quite tell what those are, but there are some warring emotions going on.
It's a note of that. Kind of like tiny little squint, but like moving on kind of thing. Okay. So Chels was not at the meeting. I think Ren actually. We all noticed that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Henry noticed.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But yeah, Ren might just say that Chels wasn't at the meeting.
Yeah, is she not his right hand anymore? Was she purposefully not there? Was it an invitation only and he didn't invite her? What does that mean?
I feel like it's definitely worth asking Zerka about, because when we left, she was in private meetings with him. This seems like a radical change.
Yeah.
And I hadn't heard of anything indicating that the hearts were no longer in any kind of favor or in a down spiral in power. So I'm either this is a very new shift, like very new, or it's not what we're thinking it is.
Hmm. Like maybe she has a different task, and so he knows that she's not going to be there because she's doing something else.
That's possible.
He's not his right hand as publicly as we thought.
That's also possible.
That's also a possibility.
I'm sorry, I have to say this out loud. Have y'all seen Princess Diaries 2? Right? There's they have that little secret look through the vent to listen in on Parliament. The Queen does. The Queen and Anne Hathaway. I'm just imagining Chels looking in, eavesdropping from a tunnel.
See, that's what she does.
Yeah.
Y'all are thinking too small. She polymorphs into a chair and is just sitting.
you did this, and I'm like, oh, she has a walkie-talkie or something.
Yeah.
Just like an earpiece on it. But,
we have walkie.
She has one of those rocks as an
Yeah.
earring.
Yeah. That would be a good idea. Henry could make little earring or necklaces for our walkie-talkies.
They're kind of big for that.
Oh. I was imagining like a bouncy ball. Is that inaccurate?
I mean, honestly, they're about this size.
Oh.
Yeah, you can make like a little
Little
That'd
necklace.
be heavy, though.
Yeah. Yeah.
Heavy.
Be heavy
Don't
and
stretch your ears out.
Yeah. Diadems.
We'll go with that.
all right. Y'all have no immediate tasks thrust upon you, and Oren is somewhat abashedly making his way towards food. What do y'all do?
Ben has a couple things he wants to do later. But for now, the group still kind of needs to... I don't know, do we really need to, like, debrief with each other?
I'm not really sure we do. Like,
We've
we
been
just
together
saw
a
each
lot.
other yesterday, and we've been together all day today.
Y'all were just on a mission, only the three of you, for about a week.
So we're sick of each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get fucked,
okay.
guys.
Yeah.
Henry
Ren
doesn't
hates
get sick
you.
of people, so all right. Well, we also just ate, so it's not like I can be like, let's go get brunch. It
Also
is past lunch.
afternoon.
Yeah.
Brunch comes after lunch.
Do y'all want to go get a drink, or do y'all want to go rest?
Oh, shit. Ren kind of actually, like, as they're walking, like, if they're, like, walking kind of out the library door, I think Ren kind of, like, almost trips on his feet and then looks back into the library. I wanted to do some research.
You need help?
On what?
After the mission we had, a lot. Yeah, Ren just got called a nerd in the channel. He's a dead nerd. What do you think he's here for? But,
How dare.
Oh, yeah! Sorry, I just
Handbook?
scrolled through my own notes. Call also wants to do some research.
Nerd.
Yeah.
there we go.
So, Call's gonna be like, actually, mind if I join you?
Not at all. I
Hey.
sort of know the library. So let's see how much we can find. So, Ren has a list of things he wants to research. Okay. So yeah, do you guys want to find a table and
Yeah.
convene? Okay.
Is Henry just gonna sit there and chill while everyone else reads?
Henry's gonna help. Henry's gonna do whatever anybody needs him to do.
Just sit there and brighten the day.
Worst case, he unbraids and rebraids his hair.
Yes. Okay. So, oh my god, my brain is not together right now. I'm so sorry. Okay. So, books that Ren wants to look for. Just topics. Dracolich, the history of the mountain, the war 60 years ago, if there's anything on that, and then skirting around the topic of Yinagu. Like,
okay. So
yeah.
Yinagu adjacent things?
Yinagu things, like, as close as we can get, but Ren also wants to approach that very cautiously, just because, like, we keep on hearing about, like, people losing their sanity if they, like, touch that directly. So, Ren wants to be cautious. about that
Do
one.
me a huge favor and write that list in the chat.
If Ren says the Yunaku thing out loud, I think Henry goes, "Can we put a pause on that one?"
Yes.
Thank you. Just maybe give it some time.
And which war 60 years ago are you referring to?
The Thieves Guild one.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. You know, fun things.
All right. Make an investigation check for me, please.
Can I give the help action?
Sure. Call if you're if you have stuff to look for as well. Add to that list.
I'm doing that.
Awesome.
Help action. Thank you, God. Okay. 18.
18. Okay.
I rolled a 1 at first.
With an 18, you find nothing about Dracoliches. But you do get, as far as history of Mount Scylla, you get a book that is kind of a novelization of Count Storr's Conquest. You get 18. You get a pretty old book that's like from before Storad was a county. That is written in a different language. It is written in Gnomish, actually.
Okay.
Henry reads Gnomish. Henry knows Gnomish.
And then for the Thieves Guild War, in a similar, like kind of on the same shelf as the like novelized version of Count Storr's Conquest, you find a relatively small book that is that what did I call it?
Oh, good boy. Cat Cam.
Cat Cam.
It's a good boy. He's so soft.
The book is titled The Thieves Purge. There is no author listed on the book. But that's not an uncommon thing in this time.
What's the handwriting?
What do you mean?
Is it like handwritten?
Well, yeah, everything's handwritten.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it's clean. You would assume there's actually 2 copies of the book on the shelf, which is a pretty rare thing for books in general. They're both like bound extraordinarily similarly. And looking at them, especially if you show them to Call would be able to recognize this very quickly. These are absolutely like 2 copies made from an original writing. So that like they're both done in the same handwriting, but there's no way of really knowing if it was like one person who wrote the book and then just made copies themselves, or if someone wrote the book and then these are copies made later. You don't know. And there's no like dating or anything done in the book itself. But yeah, so those are the books you find. Call, can you give me an investigation check for those that you are looking for?
Action, please.
Okay. But advantage.
That would be a 22.
22. Okay. You find nothing in, at least, there's a couple of levels to the library. The one that y'all are in now is like kind of the two of y'all have access to. Sort of, mainly y'all are there because Ren has full access to this portion of the library. There's like the public library that's like almost only propaganda, and it's small. It's like short histories and like, hey, check us out, we're great type stuff. And then then there's attendants to the university have the largest selection of books available to them, and then there is also a section that is like dangerous knowledge that even Ren does not have access to.
Yet.
Yet. Now, it's Call. It is not the same thing as what you may be thinking about. Like, you can gain access to this. It is still information that is allowed to be read. You just have to be of a certain rank to do so. So, with a 22, you are fairly confident there is nothing to find about the cultural practices of Draconians in the library. As far as werebeasts, there's so much. There's a lot. One of them is written by Varric Garrus, the head of the Blood Hunters, or at least it lists him as the author. There are folk tales and fairy stories and all that kind of jazz. There is a few different books. There's a book that discusses, in terms that is somewhat difficult for you to understand, the magical ways to remove the curse of lycanthropy. There's discussive potions and their possible effectiveness against it. There's a lot. There's some of it is, you're pretty sure, just stories. Some of it seems to probably be stories, but is presented in a way as if it were fact. Some of it seems very, very scientific. Some of it seems very, very theoretic. Like, there is a lot on the topic of lycanthropes. Like, there would be like a whole shelf dedicated to it.
Okay, and Call's role is not enough to give them any kind of specificity?
So the role is to find the books. If you want to start reading through and figuring out, then that'll be something else.
Okay.
So, go ahead and just give me another investigation roll. This one's not going to have no advantage on this one.
Yes. That, my dear, was a nat 20.
Okay. Yeah.
It's almost like Call is good at this.
All right. So you are able to sort through the chaff rather easily. You get rid of most of the fairy stories and such. and in the end, you end up with a couple of scientific books. One of them is rather theoretical. One of them actually just looks to be an old spell book. So you don't really understand what's going on here, but it does have context of a spell called Greater Restoration, which cures a curse. And I'll go ahead and just wrap this up. As far as reversing transformations, lycanthropy is a curse, and as such, if you can find a way to break the curse or remove the curse, it goes away, and it is gone unless they are infected with it again. In D&D, lycanthropy is not a disease, it's a curse. So this curse can still be passed on by a bite from a lycanthrope, but aside from that, you do find there is also a book that is written by at least someone who claims to be a lycanthrope themselves, but not in no way associated with the Blood Hunters, who talks about different methods of keeping their curse in check and doing their best not to hurt people, especially in times when they are forced to transform. So times such as the full moon, and especially during the double moon. It is next to impossible for lycanthropes to not transform into their full beast form during the double moon. That throughout that entire week.
The entire week?
Throughout the entire, so like not constantly, but at night throughout the whole week. But and you also find that while it's very hard to resist the transformation at a full moon, there is it has to be resisted every night. So there's that, and then the book by Varric Garrus. You almost set it aside with your nat 20, but also with your nat 20, you're like, this is written by the head of the Blood Hunters who have lycanthropes in their ranks who seem to be able to control it rather well. So you go ahead and read it, and it feels a little propaganda-y, but it is very heavily, he talks about the rigorous training and the months and months of training that all members of the Order of the Lycan go through in order to be able to control themselves and their curse. So what you glean from it with an Nat 20 is that it can be done, that someone can be trained to control themselves even when transformed, and also they can be trained to not transform against their will. Although you do notice a lack of any specific mention of two moons. So that's that. Back to Ren. Of the books you have, which one are you wanting to go through first? And I assume Henry will be reading the one that in Gnomish.
He's in Gnomish. Which one was in Gnomish again? I'm sorry.
It's the very old one about the history of Mount Scylla.
Nice. Okay, so Ren wants to go through the Thieves Guild War.
Okay.
Purge.
So, go ahead. How long are y'all willing to spend on this today?
Like an hour?
Like an hour? Okay, then go ahead and make an investigation check for me.
Me too.
Yeah, you're reading the other book.
18.
18. Okay. So you start reading through it. It is, as I said, a bit of a novelization. So it is very much story told, rather than just. It's not like reading a history book. And it follows Count Store as the hero of the story. You get a telling of the story extraordinarily different to what Drake told you. The inciting events of the war is theft and theft and the like, sneaking around in the nights. In some cases, it mentions assassination and just general bad doings by the Thieves Guild that led Count Store to take up the cry of the common people and take the fight to the Thieves Guild. It tells of many dramatic and very flashy battles in which Count Store himself is often a centerpiece and the linchpin of the victory. There are a couple where it actually speaks of the bravery of his two sons, which it names. Give me a second. Stad and Samuel. It mentions their bravery and the feats that they achieved during the war. It brings up a couple names that you didn't hear before from the Thieves Guild, but also with an 18, kind of the way that they're portrayed, you're not sure that these people were even real. These are members of the Thieves Guild, and it kind of, specifically, there are two of them, one each of the sons killed, and it kind of feels like these were ways to paint Store's sons in a more heroic light of slaying these two, the two like worst of the Thieves Guild. But
as villains kind of thing.
That's the impression you get, and also Drake said nothing of these two names. Never mentioned them. To be fair, he only mentioned Oliver, but by name.
Okay.
Sorry. That's like his dad, man.
Sorry, it was a reflex. You're right. Take it back. I take it back.
Okay. It never mentions Oliver by name, but it does mention the leader of the Thieves Guild and paints him in a very dark light. It tells of assassinations that he committed by his own hand and dark powers that he possessed that are honestly a little bit more of the driving factor than the thieving, is that Count Store was seeking to destroy these dark powers.
Okay. Anything more like specific about his you already said specific things about like what he did, more like assassinations. Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
The story does conclude with the sons of Count Store jointly landing killing blows on this, again, unnamed leader of the Thieves Guild, and then describes him using dark magics to then kill Count Store's sons. It does not mention others involved in this fight in this book, although Drake did mention that many died on both sides in the act that in whatever Oliver did to save the rest of the Thieves Guild. Yeah, that's what you get there. And then for the... you still have the book that is kind of the... found in the same section as that novelization, that is the history and creation of Storad. But you don't really have time to read through that one at this time. Henry, what did you roll on your investigation for the gnome book?
That's a 7.
Okay, so you're not able to get all the way through. Gnomish, you got Gnomish from the Gift of Light, all right? Okay. So you're not having issues reading it because you have divine power that gave you the understanding of the language. You didn't learn the language. So you're getting through it, but it's a slow read. It's like it is a history book, and it seems as if it is written as a what is the word I'm thinking of? Like there are 2 books written, and this was the second. And so it kind of feels like there's knowledge being left out that you like needed to read the other book first, and it references this other work in a word that looks like Gnomish, but you've never seen it before, and it seems weird. Like you don't honestly, you only know the word in Gnomish. Like you wouldn't be able to speak it in Dwarvish or Common. And I will tell you exactly what the word is later.
Death.
It's not death. You know what the word for death is. But so what you do get on a 7, it talks of just dangers near the mountain a lot. It like just references that the mountain is dangerous. And also, there is mentions of a dragon.
Mention what color dragon?
It mentions that it's red.
Just like the red Draconians. Interesting.
All right, so it's 2:30-ish if y'all were planning on only staying there for about an hour. What do y'all want to do?
I guess we can see if Zerka or possibly Barnabas are available.
Who you're going for first?
I mean, as a team, I guess we should see Zerka, right? Like, did she say how long she'd be busy, or like when we should talk to her? No.
She did not.
Okay.
All right. So
Henry kind of wants to talk to Lord Umber. He left a note, but he might go check on that. So I think with that in mind, he asks Ren like what he wants to talk to Barnabas about. Like, is it something that Ren wants to talk to Barnabas about, or is it something that the group should maybe talk to Barnabas about? Is what he's
Ren
asking.
wants to talk to...
Okay. Cool. Then I think Henry's gonna take that as his cue to be like, okay, well, it's great seeing y'all. I'll see y'all later. And he's gonna go talk to Lord Umber while Ren talks to Barnabas.
all right.
And we'll look at Call and check on how they're doing.
Call's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, Call's doing fine. Honestly, Call is like, okay. No, at this point, Call's like, I'm fine. I'm just probably gonna go back to the barracks unless something needs to happen.
Okay. I intend to go to the barracks later today to check in with Sorka if we need to. But you know where to find me until then?
Sounds good.
Okay.
Alrighty. Henry and Ren, just roll a d20 and tell me the number.
11.
7.
All right. Henry, that was just to determine which of you finds who you're looking for first. Henry returns to the Hall of Light, heading towards Lord Umber's office, and you actually run into him in the hallway, or you come up behind him. He's kind of standing in the hallway, not like in the center of the hallway, but he's standing looking up at one of the stained glass windows.
Mace?
He does carry a mace. One second. Of course. He is looking at the stained glass window to the god he serves that I've totally already decided who it is. But he's kind of just staying there looking up. And you see the glowing amber stone that hangs around his neck is pulsing very lightly as he stands there.
Well, Henry doesn't want to interrupt because that seems like a very solemn moment, but he goes and stands like close enough that it's obvious that he's waiting to talk to Lord Umber, but kind of bows his head in reverence and stays quiet until Lord Umber acknowledges him.
It doesn't take very long. The pulsing of the stone stops, and then he stands there for just a couple more seconds, and then turns to you and kind of gives like an acknowledgement nod that he acknowledges you.
So Henry steps forward and does whatever greeting is supposed to happen here, and asks if he can talk to Lord Umber in private, just nothing serious, just for counsel.
He has very dark eyes, but that has nothing to do with his response. But he just kind of looks you up and down, and he nods and just kind of gestures that you lead the way to his office.
Right. Henry goes to his office and doesn't open the door, just kind of like waits outside and
he does and enters with you, and then he goes to stand behind his desk to speak with you.
All right. Henry also stays standing, but on the visitor side of the desk.
He says, "Yes, Mr. Silverhammer, how can I help you?"
I've been struggling a little bit. I know that I recently graduated, and I've been serving my goddess for several years, and I feel very secure in that. But I've been questioning the application of the orders for my goddess, and I've just been thinking a lot about practical ways to fulfill my servitude to Leda. And I know that you have a lot of experience, and I just wanted to get your thoughts on a few things. The first thing, How do you follow goodness? How do you think about goodness and decide what is right and act on that? How do you know when to act and when to pause?
Give me an insight check, quick.
Is that a 9? That is a 14.
Okay. You don't really read anything on his face, but he does take a minute to respond. When he finally does, he says, I know that you are honestly closer to your God than many of your peers. The fact that you question yourself and your action, I believe, is a good sign. I must apologize. I do not believe that this is a question that I can answer for you. I believe it is more something for you to find and discern from what messages you receive from your goddess. Action is important, and action is necessary. But action for the sake of action can often be worse than inaction, which is a puzzling way. He rolls his eyes at himself as he says that. He says,
Henry laughs.
Which is a very puzzling way to just say, don't act thoughtlessly. In asking this question, I believe that your action would not be thoughtless. I would only encourage you to spend more time in prayer and look for your goddess to guide you. The training that we provided for you is how to enact, not when. He pauses for another good bit, and then I believe many fall to inaction due to complacency. I would hope that that is not a problem you ever find yourself in.
I think Henry pauses for a long enough moment that it's like he's really letting it sink in. And then he says, I have a long life ahead of me. I know that I'm just starting out. And I believe I've seen the complacency that you speak of, and I want to ensure that that's never something that I get caught in. And I think Henry kind of like nods to himself, like he feels like kind of wrapping up that. And he's like, I will spend time in prayer, and I thank you for that advice. Could I ask you another kind of not really related question?
Please.
I intend to stay in Storgard for, a while longer. But thinking about my future, I don't know where I would be best serving Lyda. So I've just been thinking about different options, and I wanted to ask you about how you feel about your position. as an advisor to a powerful count, as the leader of this school training, other paladins, and I think Henry lists a few other things that Lord Umber does that I can't think of right now. And just kind of asks how Lord Umber feels about how if he feels that he's doing well with honoring his god, and how he feels about his position. Kind of me saying it plainly to you, Ben, is he wants to know how Lord Umber is, how much power he has over Count Ander. He doesn't say that, but he's asking, he's kind of centering the question around counseling Ander and that portion of the job, but he says it amongst all the other stuff that he does as well. But that's what Henry wants to know.
Okay. Make a persuasion check.
It's a 16.
Okay. I need like a bright shiny dice.
You want to borrow one of mine? You want to borrow this one?
No.
You have the little light shiny one that's mine. It's like a light blue. It feels magical. Feels more cleric-y, but still.
Okay. I have to figure out the right way to play this. I don't think I'm going to be able to word for word for him. I'm more express the just what he says, the content. He deflects a little bit, and puts more emphasis on him doing what he knows is right, and what he is guided to do by the hands of his god. He specifically says the light of his god. And kind of briefly touches on counseling Ander in that same manner of as he knows is right and as his god guides him, as the light of his god guides him, but makes no comment on that gives away any kind of how Ander receives it or acts on it. Just more talks about I put out the advice that I put out, and then talks nothing as far as Ander receiving or acting on that advice, and then puts a heavy emphasis on how he does what his goddess teaches, or what his god teaches. I don't know. It could be goddess. I'll figure it out sometime. I will figure it out soon. But leans heavily into talking about what the light teaches him, and instructs him to do, and then kind of leaves it there.
I think Henry will ask some kind of follow-up questions and kind of engage it as a conversation, but nothing that we need to say out loud. And then I think he thanks Lord Umber for his time and kind of gives a bow and gets out of there.
Before you leave, he does say, I do intend for you to be one of our number who will be venturing toward Mount Scylla with with those assigned to the Core Blades.
I think Henry gives a very sure and kind of reverent, a yes, of course, sir kind of response.
And
Dragons.
you head out, and we'll hop over to Ren. You once again don't find Barnabas in his rooms. Where do you think you would go to try and find him?
Would Ren probably think to look for Barnabas? Ren probably knows better than I do.
Are you asking me?
Yes.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I will give you the facts at hand, I guess. You do know that Barnabas stayed behind to talk with Ander. Other than that, you almost exclusively talked to him in his rooms in the tower.
Okay.
To be honest, I mean,
Ren?
you could certainly go try and find someone and ask.
Ren decides that when Barnabas is ready, he'll probably be in his room. That's our talking place. Ren might just go ahead to the barracks since we're hoping to talk to Zerka. So.
Okay. Just go ahead and roll another luck check for me.
Okay. 9.
All right.
Okay.
Okay, so aside from that, will you roll a perception check for me?
I certainly will. That is 12.
12. Okay. Yeah. You don't really see anybody of note in the university on your way out. Yeah. No. Yeah. So, Call, what do you think you would be doing? Probably not very long time before Ren comes in, but what would Call be doing in the barracks when they first get there?
When they first arrive, it would be catching up with Jax because they have had alternating schedules for at least a month now.
Mm-hmm.
And, Jax is one of their best friends. So now that Jax is a captive audience, Call wants some company. So they'll probably chat for a while, and then if Call has time, Call is probably going to begin drafting a response to their mom so that they can keep up a regular correspondence.
Okay.
So,
when talking to Jax, are you just shooting the shit, or are you talking through what you've been doing, or?
Probably just shooting the shit. I think Call's more interested in asking what Jax has been up to than sharing what they've been up to.
Okay. Jax very quickly becomes very crass about it and goes into sex detail, because obviously that's all you could be asking him about. Just for everyone who might want to know, any and every gender. And yeah, so I'm totally down with you starting to draft a letter as well. You would have time to. I mean,
Cool.
So Ren would make it to the barracks before Henry by a bit because Henry actually had a conversation, whereas Ren just looked. So, what do you do as you approach Ren?
Like, think about Ren's kind of mindset right now, and it's like they've been traveling for a long time, and this doesn't mean anything. This doesn't even mean anything. Just like feeling kind of adrift. I don't know, relieved, but there's like that weird, like, okay, it's too quiet now kind of feeling. I don't know. Okay, that has no bearing on anything.
I love those kinds of details.
But it's good role play.
Talking through the mindset, love it.
Thank you. Yeah, honestly, he'd probably just like, if the door's open, it's open, he'd walk in, but like if it's closed, he'd knock, I guess. So.
I think at this point the door would be open. Entering in directly to your left, Andy is there, and Darian is standing as Andarion stands. And then to your right, a couple bunks in, is Jax, still visibly bandaged. At this point, probably strumming on his lute, holding it kind of awkwardly so that he's not resting it against his own ribs, but still playing rather well. For shit's sake. Yeah, rather well. Playing a bit of a catchy tune.
You're alive. How disappointing.
Not singing that.
Are you sure he would definitely sing a song about Henry Cavill if he had encountered Henry Cavill?
You know, maybe. But would Henry Cavill have spurned himself?
He spurned Joey Beatty.
He did spurn Joey Beatty.
On.
But we don't have to get into it. As a matter of fact, I would prefer it if we didn't get into it.
You don't want to talk.
It's okay. Asher and I can have this conversation offline later.
Yes, we should.
You know what? For shits and giggles, once again. Ren, go ahead and give me a perception check.
Nat 20.
Fuck. Well, you reward nat 20s. Pim is in the rafters. At this point, do you know who Pim is?
I think so. No?
I don't think you have
so.
spoken to her, but I will say that over a month where y'all all specifically said y'all wanted to get closer with each other, I will say that at some point you probably saw her and Call was like, "Oh, hey, that's Pim, one of the 12 people that I work closely with." So I'll say that you do know who she is at the very least.
Yeah, Ren has at least like seen her.
Yeah.
Oh my god, no! The training ground, she was throwing knives. Henry was appreciative.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? Ren might just like, see her and like just, wave a little hand, just silent little hi. And if there's like a chair near Call, he'll probably just sit down. And look for Truffle.
She gives you what can only be described as a murderous grin, and pulls out, it's like a throwing knife. Do you know what I'm talking about when it's like a circle, it's all metal, but there's like a circle with a blade coming off of it?
Yeah.
Okay. She has one of those, and showing off some pretty crazy dexterity is flipping one of those across her knuckles like a coin.
Ren walks a little faster towards Call.
You got a nat 20 perception, so you do hear her giggling to herself. And Call has 25 passive perception because, of course, so Call would hear this as well. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, Ren's just gonna look for Truffle. Like, he'd already told Call that he'd be there. Doesn't really feel the need to be like, I don't know.
It's kind of, I mean, it's afternoon, but it's still the middle of the day. So Truffle is absolutely sleeping. I would assume that the first place that Ren would look is under Call's bunk, because that is where Truffle's bed is. But Truffle's not there. Truffle is actually curled up next to, like, the foot of Jax's bunk. And his ear is twitching a little bit in time with the music that Jax is playing.
Stop! Why do you do this to us?
Because you all love it.
We do love it.
We are such easy targets for this.
Okay.
I know. It is sad, actually.
If you're going to walk into a room, roll a nat 20 on perception, and then say, "Where's the bunny's going to be doing something fucking cute. Like, what? Who do you think I am?
Very fair. That is very fair. Okay.
I gotta respect it, actually. That's a good answer.
In that case, Ren probably just... Truffle's there. Ren has a right to do whatever he wants. He's just gonna probably sit down near there and kind of just, like, again, just show a little, like, one little hand wave
to Jax?
Yeah.
I will say, just for the sake of positional clarification, that puts Pim almost directly above you.
For Truffle, Ren will risk it.
Okay. So, do the two of you just adore Truffle until Henry shows up, or is there anything that you want to actually do?
Hold on. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So Call's gonna get to a stopping point in their letter,
Mm-hmm.
and is going to gesture for Ren to come over to them.
Ren
And yeah. And Call is gonna say, "Hey. So Call's also going to, like, pretty much have about as much trouble as I am trying to articulate what they're going to say. And they're going to say, I spoke with Zerka today. And long story short, I am more convinced than I was before that that a coup is not what is best for us at this time. I have not begun to suss out what this means in practical terms. I have not figured out how I feel about this in relation to Henry, who is a friend and a dear friend. But I get the impression that you agree that a coup is not the best decision. And Call's also being very quiet, by the way.
Yeah, Ren's eyes have just been like held very high since Call started.
Call is being like very quiet.
Aren't they
in this
right next to Jax and Pym?
No,
Jax
Call's
and
been
Pym
over
are
at
right
their
next
bunk.
to each other, and Jax is playing his lute. Not loudly, but also not quietly. With an intentional whisper, it is certainly possible that they could be not heard.
I was imagining Ren at the foot of Jax's bed by Truffle, Pym above, and I was like, you gave me shit for saying the word.
No. Because Call's at their own bunk because they wandered off to write their letter.
Okay.
And so when Ren came in and started petting Truffle, Call stayed over at their bunk.
Okay.
And I don't. If my memory serves, Call's bunk is not near Jax's.
Correct. It's on the other side of the room.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's like plausible deniability that anyone could hear, and they'd have to be really eavesdropping. And Call is being intentionally as like projecting as much as they can to it's 11 roommates. Everyone's got like everyone understands the hey leave us the fuck alone kind of thing. So Call's just being like, fuck off, guys, kind of body language. So, but also, yeah, they admittedly are being a little risky here, but they are trying.
Okay.
Thank
you for clarifying.
Yes, otherwise that would have been a very warranted call out.
Call out?
Yeah, no, Ren was like, if Call had been, we clarified, but like, Ren might have been like glancing at, like, just towards Jax out of the corner of his eye, but like, no, he's fine.
Okay. But Call's basically going to say, I don't know how I feel about this. I don't know remotely what this means. But what I did want to potentially just, and they like fish like one of the walkie-talkies out, and they're like, I don't have magic. I can't like initiate conversation with you in that way, like, but it might just be useful to have this just in case. I don't want to use it, and I don't know what we would use it for. But I feel like it's better to have some kind of method of communication in place should it be necessary.
Wait, does Call have both of them?
Call pick, yeah.
Okay. Ren nods, says, I'm inclined to agree with you, and accepts one of the walkie-talkie stones. Rocky-talkies.
Rocky-talkies.
That's what we called them, okay.
Rocky-talkies.
I do just want to point out, you don't have to use magic to use the stone.
Which I do know that one, but also Call saying that they don't have magic means that they don't have any other method of communicating with Ren should it become necessary. And so Call's like, I don't want to set any kind of implication that I want to hurt Henry in any way, shape, or form. I just know that we are in a position right now where our ideas of what is right are opposed, and that could get messy.
This has occurred to me as well. I am glad to be working with Zerka.
All right. And Call's gonna just kind of sit there and be like, I don't know how I feel about anything I just said. It's a lot And I feel like there's no right answer for any of this. I really don't know. And I haven't had time to begin to untangle how I feel about these things. But thank you for listening.
Anytime. I'm not going to tell myself that I know what's best for a city I have barely lived in. So I'm going to accept whatever guidance that I can get from anyone that we deem trustworthy. Granted, that is not a lot of people right now. But yeah, Ren, he pockets the Rocky Talkie. And were you okay at the library?
Yeah. Yeah, I was fine. It's just been a long time since I've been there, so bit of a nostalgia trip, but I'm fine.
Okay.
Did I not seem fine?
You seemed anxious or distracted a little bit, but if you're fine, then you're fine. So he's like not wanting to like push or encroach or anything like that, but like also like, are you okay? Kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Jeez, Ren, call's fine.
Call's
We
fine.
all knew that.
Oh, okay.
That's fine.
Yeah, we did.
And on that note,
Where's Percy?
Not in the room.
not here.
Not in the city.
That is true. But I think at that point, yeah, I think Call's just gonna go. And how do you feel right now? Because I feel a whole jumble of things.
Sick. Glad to be back in the city. Mixed feelings about that too, but I feel like there are a lot of decisions ahead that I'm not going to have fun making.
And on that, we agree. And on that, we agree. On a lighter note, at this point, Call is like, you know, breaking the like leave us alone body language kind of thing and going back into more like regular, hey, we're hanging out kind of thing. And it's like, on a lighter note, have you met Jax yet?
So
I did
Ren
not hear
looks
your
over,
audio there.
assuming. What?
So Jax is still playing. Just real quick, let's have a roll for the boy. Pretty good on his perception. A little ways into your conversation, Jax kind of noticed the body language that y'all were having and started playing a little bit louder. And now that he once again notices the break from that position, he kind of just between notes just like raises a hand and waves. And Ren, give me a perception check real quick. And 25 passive perception. Ren perception check still.
1.
Sorry, how much?
21.
Okay.
Is my audio okay?
It's not picking up at the very beginning. Sometimes.
Okay.
Yeah, so short sentences can cut out.
Let me see what I can do about that. But yeah, 21.
You do notice the questioning look from Jax to Call. It's a look from Jax, is what I'll say to say that. But if you wanted to make introductions or whatever, he is now quieted his playing and is like paying attention to y'all.
Excellent. Well, if he is no longer playing, then Call is actually going to go ahead and make introductions.
He is still like playing, but he's playing much quieter and like paying attention to y'all, just like strumming.
Mm-hmm. Well, in that case, Call is going to make much more casual introductions than they would if, Jax had like fully stopped playing. But it's basically just going to be like, say, hey, this is Jax, one of my good friends. This is Ren, another friend of mine. We, this is the one I've been traveling with a lot lately. That kind of thing.
He kind of nods along and just still kind of very lightly strumming, and he just says, "Yeah, I've heard a lot about you. It's nice to meet you." And he tries to bow while sitting in a bed playing the lute with broken ribs.
Broken ribs.
And it doesn't go well for him. So he plays a very off-key, sharp twang, and as well as flinches, and then lays back and says, "I will probably get used to that about the time it heals."
I love him. I love him a lot.
It's good.
Ren makes a face at the "heard a lot about you" part, but then just kind of has to wince in sympathy. But okay.
All right. About this time is when Henry would arrive.
Henry. On his way through the courtyard, Henry knows which flowers are like weeds, which ones are prolific and can be therefore picked and not cause undue rage from First Sister Ulana, and picks some very lightly colored pink flowers. And he goes to the barracks, waves to Andarion. And I'm expecting that Andarion just like nods and doesn't actually say anything because it's Andarion. Yeah. Okay.
I mean, unless you approach him to talk to him, he's gonna incline his head slightly.
Yeah. And goes up to Ren and Call and goes, "Hello.
Hey, how you doing?"
Feeling better. Feeling good.
I'm glad. What were you up to? You said you wanted to talk to Umber, right?
Yeah, just kind of more of all the stuff I was wrestling with on the trip. Just getting some more guidance.
Okay. So he was able to help?
Yeah, I think so. I feel when you hear the same thing from multiple level-headed people, and he kind of looks at Ren and Call pointedly like you two. I think it makes one feel more sure.
I'm glad to hear that.
Well, Ren, I saw these and I think they're perfect for your skin tone and coloring. Can I weave these in the braids that I did for you earlier?
Like that, yes. Ren looks a little like really like he's trying to look not unsure for a second when skin tone's mentioned, but he's like, yeah, that sounds nice, thank you.
I'm just now realizing that we went to report to Ander with Henry's handiwork in our hair. Like, we're all coming in decked out in braids and shit. I really wonder if Zerka was looking around going like, what, did you have a braid train before you came to report?
Henry wouldn't have done crazy amounts of braids because he knows that other people are not him. He's not gonna do craziness, just like simple. Like for Call, I'm imagining like a braid up the back and then like a bun with like maybe a little braid around it.
Cute.
And for Ren, I'm imagining like the little pieces of hair here and then like braiding like that and making a little ponytail on the back.
You know what this means, right?
What?
It means you have to draw it now.
Yes, I do.
Gotta draw it.
I will. I've got to. Um, but while Henry kind of weaves the flowers into Ren's hair, I think he asks how y'all are doing and just, did you get to talk to Barnabas?
Not yet. He might still be talking to Ander.
Hmm.
I hope he's not having to still be talking to Ander.
Ooh. I hope everything's okay.
Me too. How did you talk with Umbergo?
It went well. Um,
Or
yeah. 'Cause Henry already kind of said how it went.
he did, yes.
So I think he just goes, yeah, I just it's just good to hear different people's opinions and I feel I feel like I know what I need to do. And that's just a comforting feeling.
These days, an increasingly rare one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Henry's saying this very like nonchalantly as if it wasn't a very volatile topic, though he knows that they've talked about a lot of serious things with major implications on the trip, but he's not gonna make it seem like they're talking about something that's a big deal because they're, in public. Unless we're back over on Call's bunk and we want to talk about it, but Henry's gonna keep it kind of chill.
I think for a second, Ren is just kind of like glancing back and forth between like Henry and Call, like a little bit tense. Like, yeah, we're not, in the middle of, hot shit or anything like that. Everything's fine. But yeah, okay. Do we think talking to Zerka might be a good idea? Okay, Captain Zerka. I think every time Ren like says somebody in like authority, even though Jenny might forget because yeah, Ren always refers to them respectfully, like with their title and everything like that. So
Technically Captain Dawn, then.
actually, yeah, I was thinking, yeah, he might be saying Captain Dawn. Ren is formal, so yeah.
And Henry also, I was thinking about that because I was gonna ask Ben, does Henry call her Chels now since they're kind of friends? But I feel like every time he's talked about it to like Ren and Call, like he's said Lady Heart. Maybe at the beginning they were like Lady Heart, But now I don't know. But I agree that we wouldn't be saying Barnabas and Zerka,
So
Ander.
at least with Barnabas, it is like his title is Master Barnabas, not Master Onber.
Yeah. So yeah, with Ren, it's Master Barnabas, Captain Dawn. Chels is the exception. It's always Chels derogatory.
Oh man. Being the only one in the group who knows that a conversation of theirs has gotten back to the Hearts directly, it's hilarious to me that you still speak derogatorily about them.
They already know. They already know how Ren feels. Hi.
So Ben, would Henry? I think because if he calls her Lady Heart, I think he would have asked at some point, like, I don't know.
If
Like, would Chels have ever?
If Henry asked her if he could call her Chels,
I don't think he would have asked, but I think he would have. I think he would have wondered, and if he calls her Lady Heart in the reverent way that you say titles after a very casual brunch, I'm just wondering if Chels would have said, "Call me Chels," because I feel like the tonal shift is very different.
Said, "Call me Chels."
Okay, that's what I was wondering.
It would the correct address would be either Lady Heart or My Lady.
Okay, that's what he said every time then to her.
Okay. Now that we've got feudal naming conventions down, I just want to point out it is a little bit after 3 o'clock. Y'all have heard the 3 o'clock bell. Y'all are planning to go talk to Zerka? Like, y'all are planning to go find her to talk to her?
Nope.
Asher asking this, didn't she say, when I have information, I'll give it to you? Like, do y'all have specific things you want to ask her?
Oh, that's a good point. Bronwyn has no brain. Bronwyn has the dumb.
Because, like, if it had been, like, a day or two, and we're like, okay, we haven't heard anything, let's go check in, maybe she was too busy. Yeah, but, like, it's been a couple hours, and she's a busy lady. In my mind, if she had something to tell us right then, I feel like she would have.
I'm
know.
gonna kind of retroactively give me an insight check, please.
I think
I think you're the only one this would pertain to.
Meh, it's a 10.
You have the information you have.
God damn it. It doesn't help us. Well, if that's the only information we have, and like Henry makes a good point, and I think Call's gonna be like, let's not bother her.
So, slight shift out of the game. As a DM talking to two players this is their first campaign. If y'all want to just go find something to do that's not just, dicking around, like if you want to go find your own quest to do, find your own people to help, that is a thing you can absolutely do. And also, although I would appreciate it if you didn't do this all the time, you can just say fuck you to the plot hooks that I give you and ignore them. It is a thing that is okay to do. If you do it all the time, I'll get upset and I'll start punishing you for it. But every once in a while, it can be fun to improvise the whole fucking session.
still has ideas, Ren still has things that he needs to do. Just also trying to like follow the main like beats that we have here. He wants to talk to the ring again, but he actually doesn't want to do that in a room full of spies. Or even just containing like 3 spies, even if he knows one of them.
In what I talked to you about earlier, has anything with Ren's behavior in the ring changed? Did you do anything different, or is it still the previous arrangement you had with it?
Like previous arrangement being like, very like, hi, how are you doing? And
No,
like,
no,
generally checking up on him.
Physical interaction.
Physical interaction, like...
Does Ren wear the ring constantly? Does Ren still keep it in a pocket? Okay.
Pocket. Yeah.
All right.
So, that might change soon, though. But yeah, for now, he's not going to do that in the barracks.
Henry has something that we could do if Ren doesn't have. It's just kind of whatever. That if Ren doesn't have something specific.
Let's go for it.
Well, I think as we kind of settle and realize, well, don't really have much to do. I think Henry looks at them and says, "Well, do y'all want to come walk around the city with me and spread joy? Let's talk to people."
Yes, I do.
Carl is going to say, that sounds delightful, but I was also in the middle of writing a letter, and I think I want to finish it.
Oh, okay.
Have fun, guys.
All right. Well, good luck.
Thanks.
Okay. So you're wanting to do this within the city, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to just list some districts, and you tell me which direction you head. Okay, so actually, let me see if I can get my map real quick, so I can.
Have you read the scene that I've written from Henry's backstory that's similar to this?
No.
Okay, never mind.
Give me map.
Map.
It is not map. It is not the right map.
I forgot to look something else up in the library.
Open. Eject. Damn it.
Is it on top of the printer with my drawing stuff?
Could be. Oh, fuck. I'm making them. Okay. So you could go to. So you could, if you wanted, go into like the university grounds, and just like search for people there. Search for things to do there. You could travel through the area y'all have honestly spent the most time in, excluding like the main courtyard and inner keep, is the residential gentry area. So where the Hearts live, where y'all met with Erida. Erida's handmaid. Even though y'all knew that Erida was there. Oh no, y'all outright knew that Erida was there. Never mind. She was just hid behind a screen. that area where also where y'all investigated the house that the slice went into. There's all that. You can go into the market district. You can go to the industry district, which is mostly like physical labor type shit going on. There is also an area that is mostly like non-property owning homes, like non-property owning people homes.
Rentals?
Yeah, rentals. It's not quite as renty as modern day is, but and then also there is just kind of like it's not really slums, but it's an area that is like the majority of the people that live in this area actually work outside of the city, still within like a day's travel. So like they still like come home and stay there at night, but they work outside of the city walls. And there's an area that is mostly that type of people. And because most of the people that actually live there aren't there during most of the day, some riffraff will congregate, oddly enough, during the day in this area.
I think he turns to Ren and says, I'm thinking we could either go to like the market district or to that area, the area that's like non-property owning people, not property owning housing. What do you think?
Following your lead, you're experienced with this than I am. So yeah, Ren's almost like observing, like, okay, how do I spread joy? Like, how does Henry do this? Just like curious, like he's, yeah. I mean, not really this, but he's like,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, I'm going with Henry on his. It's your take Ren to work day.
Yeah, take Ren to work day.
Yeah, like, okay, what does this do?
Okay, so I think we walked towards the market district, and Henry has taken people with him before, and so he knows kind of what to say. He kind of describes to Ren of, well, when I'm just kind of going out without specific purpose of who to talk to, just kind of look around for anybody who's not focused on something, because I don't want to break anyone's concentration. But just kind of looking around and trying to put myself in people's shoes and think, what are they probably thinking right now? What are they probably, yearning for? Like, what is their goal for what they're doing? And if it's something that I can empathize with and kind of have a good feeling that I know about what they're thinking, about what they're doing, then I'll just go and I'll greet them, and if they greet me back, then I'll ask them a question. Usually, I'll ask them a question about what they're doing, and as you ask people questions, people like talking about themselves, and then as they talk more about themselves, they get more open, and then I just kind of go along with the conversation until I can either ask a question that I know will lead them to something that will make them feel better, or make a comment that I think will help them. Because it's not about me doing something that makes their day better. It's about me helping them realize how they can make their own day better, if that makes sense.
Ren is nodding along, but basically thinking like, okay, this requires a lot more social skills than I have. But yeah.
Henry does not pick up on that, I don't think. He's like, yeah, Ren is getting this. Okay, this is going to be good. Let's go.
Ren is like, I am drowning here. Okay, cool.
uh, cool. So, yeah, I think they go to the marketplace, and if they kind of strike out there, then they'll go to the non-ownership housing place.
I'm kind of more curious about the second place, yeah. Because
All
I
right.
don't think we've. Yeah.
Okay, let's do that then.
Okay. Right. We see any sad souls standing around in the street? That was a lot of alliteration. Oh,
Love it.
goodness.
A boy, a prince, a regent
The young man.
attempting to escape.
So, there's no real, like, shining events that happen immediately, especially if y'all are going to the market first. Most people that are there are kind of like getting business done because we're getting towards the end of the afternoon. So everybody there is kind of like wrapping up business and trying to get out. So like you notice a couple people that could probably use some joy, but also not really in a good place to receive it at the moment. Especially not if it's gonna require a conversation of this is how to bring joy to yourself. So like you're able to do some very small things that go. It's going rather well. Go ahead and make just a raw charisma check for me.
17.
Okay. Yeah. You have a few brief interactions with some people that leave that as you leave you notice that they have a smile on their face, and so they like it goes well. It's a good time. Just a little while. A little while hanging around, you're not really getting anything, so y'all would progress to the rent housing. Okay.
Also, Henry is 100% keeping his eye on the time because he knows exactly when he can send a sending to Bennett, and it's coming up in the evening, and he wants to send it as soon as he can. So he is keeping his eye on the time.
Okay.
Which phase of the knock-knock joke was this?
Henry has said knock knock. Bennett has said who's there. So then Henry's gonna say, Ivana Seymour.
I will point out you sent that after getting back, and y'all got back late.
I thought we got back at like 6 p.m.
You got back after the sun went down, or as the sun was going down, because y'all barely made it in before they closed the gates.
Okay. But it's fall. It's late fall, so it's not like the sun goes down around 6 or 7.
I'm just saying it's not. You're not pressed for time, is what I'm pointing out.
But Henry's excited, which is why I'm saying it's not like I think it's gonna happen any second. But if we get late, anyway, continue. Yeah, we go.
What I will say is on the way to this rent housing area, the main road that you would travel on from the market district to that area does travel briefly through the industrial district. That's the word. I kept wanting to say zone. And as you go through, I just want to point out that you notice a tavern, which is it's not out of place. There are actually a very high concentration of taverns in this area. Sorry. Where did I definitely wrote it down. Where did I write it down? Oh, here it is. Okay. You see a tavern with a sign on the front that says half a mug.
Half a mug?
Half a mug.
Half a mug.
Like half of a mug.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the word. There is a tankard with tusks on it as the logo. on the sign. But yeah, y'all pass by that on your way to the rent housing. What is y'all? Do y'all know your passive perceptions?
Ren's is
12.
14.
Okay. Man, check. Why did I close my dice bar? Shit. I need to. Yeah. You with a 14 passive perception, you notice a guy kind of standing to the side of that tavern, watching the two of you go by. He doesn't make any move to follow you, or and doesn't have an aggressive posture or anything. He's just kind of leaning against the side of this tavern, but he is watching you.
What does he look like?
Darker skin, kind of like very tight curly hair, brown eyes, dressed very simply. He's pretty dirty. There looks to be coal dust on his cheeks and his arms. His arms, aside from having dark skin, are like blackened with coal dust.
Henry has a 12. Does he notice this guy?
Yes, you both see him.
I think Henry waves at him.
When you do, he gets off the wall and goes inside the tavern.
I think Henry looks at Ren and is like, that's pretty clear.
Okay.
Keeps going.
Ren was kind of like wondering, like, okay, what do we do? Do we give this guy lotion? Is he okay? Like, what would Henry do? What would Henry? Henry would probably offer him some lotion or something.
So sweet. I love it.
We are walking around town just being sweet. Ren is trying, okay?
That's so cute. I love it.
But also it's kind of weird just to like follow somebody into a tavern, a stranger, just to be like, hey, you want some lotion?
Yeah.
So yeah, Ren's like not gonna do that.
I think Henry is like, yeah, I mean, if he wanted to talk, I think he would have. He would have stayed outside.
You know, what kind of shops are around here?
Very, very little.
Okay.
Almost
Yeah,
all of the shops are in the market district.
Yeah.
Things around here would at most be like super simple food. Taverns, like by super simple food, I mean like grocer, but even then, like super plain bread, super plain meat, like no kind of restaurant, but taverns, and then like maybe a cheap clothing vendor, but like almost all of the actual shopping isn't very far away in the market district.
Ren has been like, for the most of this like excursion, he's kind of like had this very serious look on his face, like thinking very hard, like, okay, yes, what do we do? We're being good right now. And some things occurred to him, and he kind of looks at Henry. He's like, I want to get something for Oren.
I think that's a great idea. What are you thinking?
I'm thinking a watch. like a pocket watch. He gets really, really caught up in whatever he's doing and he loses track of time, and I want to make sure that he's paying attention and that he eats at good times.
Yeah.
I mean, I could get him like another book or something like that, or another journal, but he has plenty of that where he is.
Mhm.
But he needs to take care of himself. So I wonder if a watch would be good.
I think a watch would be good, and maybe you could even ask him if he knows a way to make it. Well, I guess maybe he doesn't have to do it, but when you're caught up, you're not going to look at your watch. But if he has a device that could chime at, hey, it's lunchtime, hey, it's, dinner time.
He
I
would
mean,
love to fiddle with that.
he would love to do it himself. So like we probably could pay for someone like an enchanted something but he would probably like to do it himself.
I might like to do that.
No.
Okay, so yeah, but while they're like out just like looking for strangers to insert, into their day,
Hmm.
and
Alright, so you're gonna go try and find a watch?
yeah, I guess if we're going back to the marketplace, yeah, look for like a watchmaker.
Yeah, you can do that. Give me a perception check.
Okie
Both of us?
Sure. I mean,
19.
19.
Not that good at
Okay.
all. 6.
Yeah, after a little while, you actually come across a little shop that just has no words on it, but it just has a sign that is a rather large, but not so large that it couldn't be supported by wooden post. Just bronze gear, just hanging from a post. And looking in the windows, you see all sorts of different clockworks.
Okay, yeah, Ren will look around and at watches,
Right.
looking for just a good, decent, like well-made pocket watch. Just
There is a goblin at the desk who has a pair of spectacles on that has 4 additional lenses on the right eye that are all down. And he is fiddling with something clockwork. You're pretty sure it's not a clock, but something that is clockwork.
nice.
But yeah, he is sitting on top of the desk actually, with his feet like crisscross applesauce. And there is gearwork and springs kind of surrounding him on the desk, and he is fiddling.
Okay.
Yeah. As far as watches go, you find a pretty good selection. How much are you looking to spend?
How much does a good watch cost?
I mean, there's some that are pretty crazy, like that have like gemstone covers that are cut finely enough to be visible through to see the face of the watch, that are like gold plated and such, that are like beautiful fine pieces of jewelry that get into the hundreds of gold pieces. But down from that's pulling away from the looking flashy. A lot of them still are at least gold plated or gilded. Some of them have etching and such. Range though these are like nicer looking timepieces that look sturdy. The wind on them isn't like a giant, like winged tern that sticks out. Those are 50 to 100 gold, and then something that tells time most of the time that gets pretty cheap. You see, like, if you wanted to go for the cheapest thing, you could get one for 9 silver. But that, that one probably tells the time correctly about twice a day.
You know
I
what?
think I think Henry says, I mean, we don't want it to be super expensive because you know that Orange is just going to improve upon it. But that's my only input on this.
Yeah. The thing about Ren, I think he's happy to just like spend recklessly because like he hasn't always had money to spend, so like the concept isn't really catching up to him. Also, he doesn't really have to buy things for himself because he's at the university where like they just give him all the stuff he needs. So he's gonna look for one like, I don't know, 50 or 60 gold. You know,
50, 60
like
gold?
a good one. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. You're able. Describe features of it that you want to find.
Not tacky. So yeah, not like super super gilded, but also not like not plain, you know, not making it look like he spent like, I don't know, 9 silver on it. But you know, like a good turn, like not fragile but also not bulky, you know, like you said, just a good turnkey kind of
All right.
thing.
Cool.
Symmetrical, probably some kind of pretty etching.
Some pretty etching. Okay. So yeah, you find something that could fit that description. I'm gonna add a little bit more to it, of keeping in mind how much you said you like the price you were also kind of going for. The one that you find doesn't actually have like a face cover. That's honestly most of the ones that have the cover on over the face of the watch are more expensive, like the clear crystal covering. It does have like the little latch,
Clasp, yeah.
the little clasp. But like once it's open, the hands of the watch are like free spinning. There's nothing stopping between them and you.
Yeah, and that seems pretty standard for
Yeah.
like, yeah, okay.
Especially for this price range. If you get to the much more expensive ones, they do have that like some kind of crystal very finely etched to where you can see through it, and that protects the hands of the watch. Make a perception check for me real quick.
15.
Okay. It does have a little bit of etching on it. You do find on the back, it's a little bit, it's hard to say. Something about it, the very back of the watch, like along the back in a line, seems just barely not the same as the rest of the watch. And you get the impression that maybe there was an inscription on it that has since been polished off of it. But other than that, there is etching around the edge of it that is just kind of artsy. With that description, is that what does that sound good?
Curious about the etching that's been.
Do you want to ask the shopkeep?
Yes.
He kind of startles as you approach, and he says, what?
Yeah, Ren will show the watch and just point out. It looks like something was scrubbed out here. curious about what it was.
He kind of holds his hand out for it, and he says, "Hey, let me take a look at it." He takes it, turns it over in his hands like 4 or 5 times, with kind of hardly looking at it as he does so. He's actually looking at you through all 5 lenses, including the spectacles, with his right eye, and the left one seems to not be looking at you at all. And then he stops turning it, and then redirects his many-lensed eye to the back there and rubs the green thumb across it. You notice that his nails are kind of filed to points, and you see him take one and very, very lightly scratch across this kind of strip of slightly different colored. He opens it, holds it to his ear, and listens to it tick for a second, and then closes it back, kind of messes with the chain very quickly, and he says, "Oh, yeah, yes, this one was a repair job I did, but sadly, the man who wanted it repaired passed before the repair was finished. I tried to find someone else next of kin, but could not. So I have it marked at a bit of a discount for what it's actually worth." And he flips it a little bit and opens it again and then closes it again. And then looks up and shakes his head slightly, and all the lenses, one after the other, click out of place. So he's just looking at you through the spectacles. However, his left eye is still not quite meeting yours, or not looking straight at you.
Finds himself feeling sorry for a watch. I keep realizing things about Ren's psychology that frighten me. Yeah, he'll ask, essentially, like, if there's anything that they can do to maybe, like, yeah, he wants that one.
He nods. He says, "It's a good piece. It'll keep time better than that." He very vaguely gestures in the direction of the clock tower. And then he once again flips it a few times in his hands. And then he says, "I realize this strip is noticeable. Do you want me to make it a little more uniform?"
Yes, please. I would like that.
He goes, and rolls backward off of the desk and just disappears behind it. You hear clanging and rattling, and then a light scratching sound, and then a loud zap. And then older looking guy, just hops from the ground behind the desk on top of it again. Once again, flips it over 3 or 4 times in his hands, and then dangles it down on the chain and swings it back and forth just a couple times. And for a second, you swear there's 2. And then he spins it around his hands, it wraps around and clasps into his palm. And he says, "Yeah, well, it'll cost you 65 gold."
Okay. And there we go.
He reaches behind the desk with one hand and pulls out a small box that has some just like wood shavings in it to kind of pad it out. He slides the chain off of his hand into the box and then rests the watch on top of it. Closes the lid of the box, takes your gold, and hands you the watch.
Thank you very much. And You know, Ren's gonna do a Henry and ask the shopkeeper his name.
Zork.
Zork. It's nice to meet you, Zork. Thank you very much.
Pleasure.
Okay. Yeah, Ren's ready to go. He's got like I bought something dopamine right now. So
As soon as they get out of the shop, Henry gives Ren a crushing hug and says, "You did so good.
what did I do?
You're just sweet, and I think you're a nice person."
Well, it is midnight.
It is midnight.
It's late. Sending though. Sending. Or is there stuff that we're gonna be doing?
Here's what I'll do. You can do your sending, like, I'm assuming there's nothing in session you want to do for the sending, right?
No.
Okay, so you can like write it out and give it to me, and
I already sent it to you.
Oh, okay.
But yeah.
I'll get you a response by next session. But the first bit of next session is probably going to take place before the sending is actually sent. But we will see. So yeah, that's that.
That was great. It was a great session.
Good session, guys.
Good session, guys.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that.
It was very good.
That was fun. It was sweet.
Another foray into trying voices.
I think you did a great job.
So good at improv, dude. What the fuck?
I'm ridiculously proud of the sign to the shop just being a large gear.
I liked that. Immediately I was like, oh, this is my favorite place. It's just charming. All right. Well, yeah, it is midnight and I have to get up at like a human hour.
Ew.
Ew, why?
Because apparently judge says I have to be human now, so right.
Did you get my Steam friend request?
Yes, I did. I accepted it.
Oh, okay, cool. Awesome.
Yeah.
Then yeah. I'm gonna say goodbye to the live audience if there is a live audience. Toodaloo.